It all started in 1836. Samuel Colt introduced the first Colt single-action revolver, Colt Patterson, and it started a revolution of revolving percussion handguns that ended in 1872. While Samuel Colt was able to see the 1860 series of revolvers unfold, he died in 1862 and never saw what became of one of the most beloved of revolvers ever, the 1873 Single-Action Army, or, as it became to be known, the Peacemaker. Only one major manufacturer of firearms stood in the way of Colt totally dominating the handgun world, the Remington Arms Company. Remington Arms produced highly robust handguns in the way of the New Model Army revolver from 1863 to 1875, the Improved Army or Frontier Army from 1875 to 1889, and the 1890 New Model Army. The Remington 1890 New Model Army was the last revolver made by the Remington Arms Company, when, in 1896, they returned to what they did best, manufacture rifles and shotguns. Colt remained as the only dominant single-action revolver handgun manufacturer, at least until 1953, when another manufacturer created a very robust single-action firearm that shook up the single-action revolver world, and I'm going to tell you all about one. In 1949, the Sturm Ruger & Company was formed and has since produced firearms that have become known as highly reliable and highly rugged. Colt had discontinued the iconic single-action Army prior to World War II, and a few single-action revolvers were available to meet market demand for cowboy-style revolvers. In 1953, the new firm of Sturm Ruger & Company introduced the Single Six, a 22 long rifle rimfire single-action revolver that became so popular that Ruger developed a centerfire revolver similar to the single-action Army, the Ruger Blackhawk. The Ruger Blackhawk broke the mold of what was to be expected of a single-action revolver. In fact, in 1972, Ruger introduced the Ruger Old Army Black Powder Percussion Revolver, that led the way back into old-time percussion revolvers. Although discontinued in 2008, the Ruger Old Army is still in wide demand today among cowboy action shooters because of their rugged reliability. Although companies like Uberti and Pieta lead the way in producing 1873 Colt single-action reproductions, Ruger led, and still leads the way, with producing robust single-action counterparts of a different nature, with models like the New Model Blackhawk, the New Model Blackhawk Convertible, New Model Super Blackhawk, Vaquero and New Vaquero, and the Bisley. These revolvers have chamberings that boggle the mind, some of which have been discontinued, but many remain. Here's a list of popular calibers. Today's specimen under review is a Ruger New Model Blackhawk in stainless steel and chambered in .45 Colt. This one was provided by my son-in-law for this review, and I thank him for it. So, let me get on with the review. At the time of this review, the Ruger New Blackhawk in stainless steel is only offered in .357 Magnum with a 4.62-inch barrel and a 6.5-inch barrel. This stainless steel model has a 5.5-inch barrel and is chambered for the .45 Colt cartridge, and which is now a rare bird, the revolver, not the cartridge. There are many blued offerings available in various calibers, including .45 Colt, but this one stands apart. Incidentally, quite a few of those blued models are either of limited quantity or currently unavailable at the time of this review. To the revolver in hand, I can say that it weighs heavily in the hand, weighing in at 2 pounds 12 ounces unloaded. With its bulk, you might be surprised to learn that it is only 4 ounces heavier than the latest offering from Colt. The sighting system is very good with a Bauman-style pin front ramp and a fully adjustable for windage and elevation rear sight, although no sighting aids like dots or outline is provided. Blackhawk is, after all, not a target gun. The 5.5-inch stainless steel barrel provides ample enough space for a safety warning and manufacturer's information. Read at your leisure, with the gun unloaded, of course. Beneath the barrel, as commonly found in single-action revolvers, is the nicely integrated shell extraction system, consisting of the usual extractor rod housing and return spring. The extractor does a fine job of ridding each chamber of shells. The barrel is perfectly married to the frame and has a flash gap of less than 0.0025 inch. You heard me correctly, less than 2.5 thousandths of an inch. This is one tight flash gap. On the left forward end of the frame, the usual spring-loaded base pin catch and release mechanism is found. Pushing inward releases the base pin. No surprise there. The top strap is as flat and thick as a Ruger top strap should be. That could be because it is a Ruger top strap, and any Ruger top strap is notorious in its thickness. The rear sight is nicely co-joined with the top strap with a single pin. The cylinder is, of course, of obvious thickness and well able to house 6 torpedoes like the .45 Colt cartridge, with no obvious end-to-end play and very light side-to-side play. This drilled and milled cylinder says it's housing the big boys. Moving down to the right side of the frame, the unit serial number is clearly marked, as is the model and caliber on the left side of the frame. Moving up to the hammer, you can see that it sits high and proud with more than enough material for cocking and decocking the Blackhawk. Hammer pull is as robust as the revolver, and no, you will not find 4 clicks when you pull the hammer back. The Ruger hammer is either show or go, and it takes a little effort to get it into the go position. Just in front of that hammer is the transfer bar safety that prevents the hammer from striking the firing pin unless the trigger is pulled, and which allows the carrying of a full complement of 6 rounds without concern of the gun discharging without pulling the trigger, unlike many single-action reproductions where loading 5 and placing the hammer over an empty cylinder is mandated for safe handling and carrying. The trigger is in its usual position with a nicely rounded trigger guard, and trigger pull weight on this puppy measured out at 3 pounds 14.5 ounces with a 5-pull average. The trigger pull is clean, but not as responsive as I expected. There is a bit of stacking just before the hammer falls, but when the stacking ends, the hammer falls with authority. The loading of the Blackhawk and other Ruger single-action revolvers have been commented on in the past, where some like the way it loads and some do not like the way it loads. To load or unload, simply roll the loading gate outward, line up the chamber to be loaded or unloaded, and load or unload each chamber as you wish. As mentioned, unloading is accomplished by pushing the extractor rod to the rear to push the spent cartridge out of each chamber, and loading is simply rotating the cylinder to the desired chamber and inserting a fresh cartridge. Comments that I have read were that some complained that the Ruger did not load and unload like an 1873 Colt single-action Army. Well, could it be that the revolver is not an 1873 Colt single-action Army? It is a Ruger, and Ruger doing what Ruger does: simplify the loading process without having to pull the hammer back to the half-cock position, thus negating having to pull the hammer fully to the rear and then decock. To me, loading a Ruger is far safer than loading an 1873 single-action Army revolver, although I do admit to liking loading a Colt clone the cowboy way. There is some satisfaction in doing so, at least to me. The grip frame, as expected, is as robust as the gun itself, and provides a handful of handle for the hand to hold. I will say that the Blackhawk unloaded feels a bit barrel heavy, but once loaded, it balances out nicely. The original wood grip on this specimen were changed out to faux stag grips, and they look and feel great. The grip angle and length feel perfect in my hand, and is reminiscent of the grip on the Colt, which was patterned after the 1860 Army percussion revolver. I can get all of my non-firing fingers on the grip with a high hold on the revolver, and that helps with controlling the revolver when firing. With that out of the way, let me talk about removing and installing the cylinder. Obviously, the first step is to ensure that the Blackhawk is safe. No live cartridges in the chambers, and no live cartridges in the immediate vicinity. Unlike a normal 1873 Colt single-action revolver, the hammer does not need to be positioned at the half-cock position. In fact, there is no half-cock position for the hammer to be pulled to, so that's quite easy. Simply leave the loading gate open after the safety check. Push the cylinder base pin in to unlock the base pin. Pull the base pin out to release the cylinder, and then roll the cylinder out from the right side of the revolver. Pretty simple and straightforward. To assemble, open the loading gate, slowly drop the cylinder into place, push the base pin in until you hear it click into place. Close the loading gate, perform a quick operational check, and you are good to go. Now, I do use snap caps for the operational check, just to give the firing pin a soft surface to impact, but the Blackhawk can be dry fired without using snap caps. It's just a habit of mine to use them. Last on the list of features is the fact that rather than using a flat hammer spring like that found on Colt and Colt reproductions, Ruger opted to use a coiled hammer spring for increased ignition and reliability. This change was unprecedented, not only with single-action revolvers, but was carried over to the entire line of Ruger revolvers, including double-action revolvers, and greatly improved the performance and reliability of them. Now that the Blackhawk has been given the green light, I hope that I can make all of the green lights on the way to the range, which is where I'm heading to right now. Shooting a single-action revolver always appeals to my cowboy side, although I have no cowboy heritage. Today, with some of my son-in-law's .45 Colt hand loads on hand, let the range session begin. I am going to begin by shooting first two-handed to get a feel of POA versus POI, and then shoot one-handed duelist style from then on. So, let me get through my first 6 for familiarization. I'll make notes as I move along, and then provide a range day synopsis at the end.
I paid a lot of money for it, so I better be able to do it.
Let me know, okay?
That's why I bought it. He's paid with 556. You gotta be. He's 10 years older than I am. I was married to my wife. I was married to my wife for 18 years.
Oh, were you really?
In order to keep this review as short as possible, I have excluded the range trip to the Clybell outdoor range. However, I have included it in a separate at-the-range video with the Ruger New Model Blackhawk that I invite you to watch because, believe me, you will like what you see. So, I have put a link to the entire range sessions, indoor and outdoor, in the description section below this video. So, and for now, let me get into my final thoughts regarding this Ruger New Model Blackhawk. I have two Ruger Blackhawks chambered in .357 Magnum, a 5.5-inch version and a 7.5-inch version. Firing .45 Colt is my preferred cartridge, and this new Ruger Model Blackhawk is simply a dream to shoot. I like everything about this revolver: the brushed stainless steel finish, decent sights, the weight, mild felt recoil, an excellent grip to work with, and a trigger, while not excellent, all made for a pleasurable shooting experience. While due to its 5.5-inch barrel, this is not a target shooter per se, or a hunting firearm. It is immensely pleasurable to take it to the range for just some fun plinking and prove to be challenging when going up against steel targets at my favorite outdoor range. I do enjoy handling and shooting my Colt reproductions. Shooting a Ruger Blackhawk is no less pleasurable. I could just shoot these single-action revolvers all day until I ran out of ammunition or when the cows came home, at least chambered in a reasonable caliber, like a .38 Special, .38 Special plus P, .357 Magnum, and .45 Colt. I'm usually pushing my limit with a .44 Magnum version, like the Super Blackhawk, and definitely beyond my self-imposed limits with higher calibers. If you have a single-action revolver, use it to take a break from your normal shooting routine. Slow down and enjoy what a good single-action revolver can provide. With that, it's time to close this chapter and let you resume with your normal day. I hope that you can return to the channel and partake of my other reviews. Until you do, be vigilant, be armed, and be safe out there.